Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Trade Geeks. It's Friday. Today is July 18th, 2025. Today, we've skipped a couple of weeks, but we're here to give everybody an update. Again, it's the tariffs are rearing their head up again. We'll see how that's going to play out here as President Trump is sending letters to individual countries, trying to level the playing field. I don't know. I've been in the business here cross border for almost nearly 30 years. I started very young in the family business. And when he talks about the reciprocal tariffs and leveling the playing field, I experienced that with trucking as an example. If I have a U.S. trucking company, I don't have the same liberties to transport material and deliver in Mexico as the Mexican carriers have delivering the goods and picking up goods in the U.S. now. So especially with the B1 drivers. So the liberties are not equal between the U.S. And the Mexican companies in the trucking industry. They tried to reform this with the NAFTA back when George W. Bush was president. And I think it was in 2005, they tried to write some legislation or some rules, and then it was canceled abruptly. So they weren't able to fully implement the accords under the NAFTA for the transportation and trucking industries. So that's just an example of what's going on. We'll have to see what actually happens on the 1st of August, see if any negotiations are made to kind of reduce these tariffs. I think everybody's biting their nails. Everybody's anxiously awaiting to see what the final outcome is going to be. So, I think every day we get questions of what's going to happen. We don't have a crystal ball. I think these negotiations are ongoing, so we'll have to see. One of the things that I think is important is that, we try to, comply with the USMCA trade agreement and make sure that your product qualifies for the USMCA trade agreement, because as we've seen in the guidances for the fentanyl, the automotive tariffs, if your good qualifies for USMCA, you're basically not having to pay these tariffs, right? I think the goal is to make it in the U.S., but for right now, I think the USMCA is something you really need to consider and make sure you're prepared and you can qualify your goods under that way. And we're very good at that here at TradeFlex. We've helped a lot of customers, especially with some very difficult and complicated USMCA analysis. We're pretty good at it. We got a pretty good Trump trade buster, tariff buster team here. So, you got to reach out to us and, use us as a valuable tool, as a resource for you guys. And for those customers that are subject to Section 232 steel and aluminum, the USMCA doesn't get you out of jail free card there. You still have to pay the Section 232 steel and aluminum, even if your goods qualify for the USMCA. But there is a silver lining in that cloud. And the silver lining is that even if you have, 1% of steel or aluminum content, you're able to avoid the EPA 25%, which right now they're talking about increasing the EPA from 25 to 30%, at least, right now, if we go off of, Truth Social, that's what they're saying. But, at the end of the day, I tell my clients and my friends, all my fellow trade geeks out there, is, there's a process. Just because you hear it on Truth Social Media doesn't mean that's going to be the final outcome. So it usually rolls downhill. It goes from Truth Social Media. The president notifies his secretaries, either Commerce and also the trade representative. Then it rolls down to CBP. CBP rolls out the guidance, and then the programmers that program the programs that we use to communicate with customs, they have to update their system then. And then finally, we'll see it finally implemented. So, I tell everybody, let's keep our eye out for the guidance. I think that's the key. We'll see. There's a lot of complicated things going on between the stacking of tariffs, how they're stacked, how they're destacked. We don't know how this is going to play out. I've seen some legal firms throw out there that this 30% is going to be a reciprocal tariff, but I think what I heard, I mean, fentanyl is another act that's just for Canada, Mexico, and China. So we'll see how it finally rolls out. We're going to keep our eyes peeled. And in the meantime, what you could do is you can look at some of our videos. We've been publishing these videos for over a year now. In some of these videos, we give a lot of business practices, some advice on what you can do to prepare. I think at this point in the game, we're going to be reactive. It's kind of hard to be preventative. But if you go back to our videos, we mention a lot of best business practices that help companies kind of deal with this. So, look at our videos where you can find them at www.trade-flex.com. We have a little button on the top right-hand side there. You click it, it'll send us to all our YouTube videos that are in date order. So anyway, we thank you for listening here to us here at the Trade Geeks. It's Friday. We wish everybody a good weekend. Thank you. Good day.